Hey gents, or well, not hey gents. Hey ladies and gents, we are reviewing dun 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 Ripples of Fate. We both give it a nice read, and I think we got a general idea of how everything works. So we're gonna jump in and start talking about some of these masters. So we're gonna start. We're gonna do it in order: guild.
Yep. Just in the order in the book: guild, rezzers, arcanists, neverborn. Then we get into the not real factions, the outcasts, gremlins, and Tin Thunders.
And the best faction of them all.
You're not a real faction.
we steal everything. That's what we do. But just this thing, this is just our opinions, so none of this is set in stone.
What we've heard and what we can
this is like
glean out of
from what we can read. I think we're both pretty competent players, and we can kind of get the gist of it. But if there's anything new, please post it down below. All right, let's jump right in. So, the new Guildmaster. That's not killy as all hell.
Nelly Cochran. I think this is one that a lot of people are one of the most excited about because for her faction, she is so different.
Yeah, because I think it's
they've got a few. A lot of people disappointed with Lucius doesn't quite live up to what he could be, and McCabe is good, but Nellie still does something very different.
Yeah, I think I get the feeling she's the more scheme oriented of all the masters and guilds so far. So why don't we jump in and talk about what's on her card? So Nelly Cochran, she's a master living, and she's a journalist. Apparently that's a type now. Her stats are, which are pretty nice stats actually. Defense 6, willpower 6, 11 wounds, walk of 5. She has no charge, and as normal humans, height 2, and a cash of 4.
Yep. And the thing is, with her not having a charge, none of her attacks are close attacks either. They don't have the claws.
Oh.
So she doesn't have anything on her that could make. So if you be used on a charge anyway.
So you can engage her in theory and just.
She can't hold you down.
You're right. She can't hold you down.
Yeah.
With pen.
Of course, all of her attacks, neither do they have projectiles. She can just use all of them freely.
Yeah, it's like.
And she has a cash of 4.
Cash of 4. Yeah. So now, why don't you explain in plain sight?
Yeah. So in plain sight is one of her main ways of generating evidence. When an enemy model within 8-inch aura takes an interact action, this model gains evidence +1. And so what evidence is at the end of the turn, all of your evidence is removed, and you place a ski marker in base contact with the model.
Yeah.
However, she then has several abilities, most of them on her upgrades, that let her manipulate her evidence value to do things.
And then there's like stuff at the end with the amount of evidence that she can do.
So she has creative reporting. At the start of this model's activation, it may discard a card to gain evidence +1.
Similar to like Yonlo's chi ability, where you just
a lot of those guys can ditch a card to generate. Revisionist history. This is really
awesome. Oh my god!
This is really cool for her defensive ability. So this is her probably strongest defensive ability. Is damage flips against this model may not be cheated by other models. This model may cheat damage flips made against it regardless of negative flips. So anytime you attack her, she has the option to cheat the damage.
Oh my god, that's so...
Of course, she has a lot of things she likes spending cards on. So, being forced to spend it on that isn't great. But it's one of those moments, if you're betting on hitting her with a single high damage attack.
Oh yeah, like if
that's if you do the I'm going to double focus and take a shot and get severe, and she's like, I'll cheat it to minimum. That's where
you can't count on that for if you want to try to kill Nelly.
Right, that's straight up minimum damage. So throwing something like Peacekeepers and Langston are perfect because their minimum damage is fucking crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, sure, cheat. I don't care.
It's like, right, I'm just gonna beat you up anyway, but. Against a lot of other things, like 10 Thunder Brothers don't stand a chance. They're
here's your 1 damage. Here's your 1 damage.
Right. I managed to get 5. I'll cheat that to 1.
Yeah. See, that actually would that work against our Joker? Cause
she says she can. Okay, so that's the only time the Jokers. She never mentions Jokers. She can cheat regardless of negative flips to the damage.
So if you
were to flip the red Joker, now you can't cheat the red Joker. But if you were to flip it against her, she'd still take red Joker damage.
Oh,
She would have to spend soul
so
stones
that's the
and
only
do her
time,
mitigation.
but that's one in, like that's one card in the whole deck. Well, I mean,
Exactly.
Probably,
so if it comes up, that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, you may as well just take the double negative.
Oh man!
You don't even
and
bother.
And with Soulstone use, like okay, I'm going to take the minimum 3 damage.
Right.
All right, discard Soulstone.
Now, as much as we talk about that, I actually don't see her using that. Like, she's just going to try not to get hit in the first place.
Oh yeah.
She's gonna.
She's good. I think she's like for when we see more backline master.
But don't rely on hitting her with severe damage with Lazarus to get those 3 damage blasts, because she's gonna cheat that down to no blasts.
Yeah.
If she has the cards, which that's actually one of those weird moments if she draws nothing but moderates, and it's like, what?
Damn it!
So then we are okay. Then she has her other ability on the front of her card is Run from the Truth. After a model with an 8-inch aura fails an attack action, this model may lower its evidence condition by 1 to push the model up to 4 in any direction after the current is resolved. So, if somebody makes an attack and misses, she can lower her evidence to push them around.
That's... I predict that even though it sounds very meh, but I think during certain games, like when you
charges and flurries are if they miss with that first attack.
Oh yeah, Langston like flurrying and you cheat like okay, I'm gonna cheat in the 13, so you miss.
Right now, of course, that depends on what they have. He is melee 7, but that's a great example of like Langston or Peacekeeper that flurries or something and. Yeah. Yeah,
and you cheat and like, okay, now push him forward. Just like, I flurried!
Right. Or even, Misaki. Like, Misaki cruise missile, you charge, you're going to lose some of that charge, which means you're forced to walk. And, lots of... and it's not just herself. It's an enemy model within the 8-inch aura fails an attack. So if you go after one of her friends and miss, she can lower her evidence to push you around. So it helps her, not only her personally, but her crew. So it's virtually a defensive trigger that just happens.
Oh, so good.
So then we get on to the back of her card with her attacks. So she has Scathing Review. So
I love this one.
This one's no damage, but it's range 10, casting 7, resisted by willpower. Enemy model gains the following condition: Humiliation. At the start of this model's activation, it suffers 2 damage. This model may end this condition by taking a 1 interact action to place a scheme marker. And then she has Informant to gain evidence +1. It's a trigger that's built in. So she targets you. Your model will take 2 damage every turn until you drop a scheme marker.
And you could even do it against like your opponent's scheme, runners. Like okay, oh well, no, you wouldn't do it. Or Langston, or you would do it against.
You can something that's a beater that doesn't want to interact.
Yeah.
Something that's already engaged, so that it's going to have to get away from something to drop a scheme marker. And because it's forced to drop scheme markers, it may very well trigger her in plain sight.
Yeah,
if it
and give her an evidence.
Right, and it's with Informant built in.
Too. Wow.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Marcus as far as his cast 7 versus willpower stuff.
It's like one of those things. This like if I really want this to happen, short of a red Joker, this is going to happen.
Right, and so that's her Scathing Review. Then she has her Propaganda, 1 attack.
I really do like her Propaganda. It's really nice.
It's probably one of the more complicated attacks I've ever seen, just because
one of the most.
So it's
you guys
it requires a minimum. Yeah, it requires a minimum of 6 to cast. So it is target number 12 with casting of 6. Range 10 versus willpower again. So she only attacks your willpower. And this is her damage. It does 1, 2, 3. Not impressive. However, it has 3 triggers. 1 is to push the target 5 inches.
Yes.
1 is to give the target slow. And 1 lets a model within 2 inches of the target take a 1 melee action against it. Now, the crazy thing is that
evidence.
She can lower her evidence to get multiple triggers. So she always gets 1. And then for each evidence she lowers, she gets an additional trigger. So if she,
in theory, you can get up to 3. If you spend a card, you stone, and you're using the built-in for problems.
As far as I can tell, they're all built in. All you have to do is lower your evidence.
So you don't. It's not per RAM. Oh, okay.
I don't think it is because you have a RAM. Boom, you can trigger any of them. and it just lets you declare multiple.
So you don't even need to stone. Oh my god, that's really good. You don't even have to stone. Okay.
That's my interpretation, because it just says, so lower its evidence condition to declare an additional number of triggers equal to lowered. The same trigger may not be taken more than once. You choose the order in which to resolve them. A single suit in the final duel total may be used for multiple triggers.
So you're right.
It even says it there as a kind of reminder text.
So you can, in theory, you don't even need to stone. Wow.
Right. So it's just all of the triggers automatically happen, and you just have to lower your evidence for multiples. So the big one is how she kind of has a pseudo paralyzed in that if she lowers her evidence, she can push you 5 inches and give you slow.
Yeah.
Which suddenly you're like, I'm stuck 5 inches away.
I'm out of position, and I have to spend it.
Right. And so depending on if they can be pushed back into position, they might not be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Then hot off the presses, this is a weirder one, but useful. So casting 6, target number 13, resisted by willpower, range 8. So place the target model in base contact with a scheme marker within 8 inches and line of sight that's friendly to Nelly. And then the target gains burning +3. So you can move enemy or friendly, but they always gain the burning unless there's an upgrade that can negate that. So she has a really weird place effect.
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's
and
not
it removes the scheme marker.
Yeah.
Too. Just
kind of very kind of Colette-esque where it's like I put
right. She has that place effect. This one's not quite as long, I think, but 8 inches is a good range to just say, hey, you teleport to that scheme marker. She does have to see the target and the scheme marker.
Wow, that's a really nifty thing. So you can like go. I'm thinking of Executioner.
Oh right. Instead of boxing the Executioner, you can just throw him forward.
Oh.
Now he'll gain burning unless you have the other upgrade.
Yeah.
But
that's a nice. Well, there's one more. There's one more 0.
And then her lead.
Her lead, which discard a scheme marker in base contact to push up to 6.
So she gives herself a 6-inch push potentially.
But I mean, like with the evidence, like you turn 1. All right.
Well, I mean, it's so easy to have somebody like the reporters. I know they're good at dropping scheme markers, or even just somebody who doesn't matter is all like, first turn, drop a scheme marker, and then I'll walk.
Well, but I mean, if she let's say,
and then you can just give her free push to go into position.
Like in turn 1, though, I mean, you'll be using up your evidence on turn 1, but in turn 1, maybe you should have 1 evidence.
What do you mean evidence?
Doesn't it say discard?
No, scheme marker.
No, but doesn't her evidence at the end of turn she discards it and places a scheme marker in base contact?
That's right. So turn 1 you might not have it, but as long as she has evidence when she ends the turn,
and then next turn
that free scheme marker.
Use that to reposition her where she might need to go.
Well, and what it means is that essentially she gets a free 6-inch movement where she can spend all of her AP doing something from there. Yeah. Which, sure, there's always times you're going to have to spend walking, but it certainly helps.
Yeah. And I mean, you could, like, let's say your first turn is spent. Because, I mean...
I didn't even see that combo about how the evidence will place the scheme marker you need for her push.
Yeah.
I see.
So she's very, very interesting. So now we're gonna go into the. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the master, then we're gonna go into their upgrades.
Yeah. Or okay, we'll focus on the master first.
Yeah.
Well, I think the totem is just as important. Yeah. Like, this is one I don't see her ever leaving home without the printing press.
It's one of those totems that
the governor's proxy is so to begin with.
It's like Hungering Darkness with Lynch. You never take Lynch without Hungering Darkness.
So right, and so the printing press is 3 points.
Yes.
Armor. So it's got defense 5, willpower 6.
Which is pretty good for. Is it significant?
No, it's insignificant and peon.
It's insignificant. Okay.
4 wounds, walk 6, charge 7, height 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually really quick, and
and it has a charge range. Nice.
So it has armor 2. So 4 wounds, armor 2 means unless they can ignore armor.
Isn't that like a metal gaming pretty much?
Yes, although
Oh man. So Arcane Reservoir.
Yeah, it gives you Arcane Reservoir. Like
oh wow!
And all it takes is 3 soul stones. You get an activation, Arcane Reservoir, and it doesn't take an upgrade slot.
And as you look into when we look into Nelly, she can go through cards pretty quickly, depending on what upgrades you take with her, and that giving her an additional card in her hand. That's really nice. So it's insignificant.
Yeah. So it has this ability Misstep. Enemy models that end a push replacement with an 8 and base contact with impassable terrain or another model suffer 1 damage. So it's kind of weird that...
I'm trying.
Well, you know how if there's a forest, a lot of times you'll try to push through it instead of walking because pushes aren't slowed.
Yeah.
Well, the printing press will say, "Oh, you're trying to push through that forest, it'll take a little damage." It's one of those weird things that
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't seem to really synergize. Maybe there's some like huge grand strategy that we're not seeing right now, but I mean it's still really good for just it's an extra little boon. I mean, for 3 soul stones, that's phenomenal.
Well, it's also, but think Nellie. Nellie gives pushes. So she's like, "Oh, I'm going to push you into my friendly model. Oh, you ended in base contact with a model and the printing press aura
you're
took
right,
1
you're
damage."
right. Okay, yeah.
So she gives out enough pushes that it might come into play.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of a weird extra. It's not why you take the printing press.
And he's on a 40mm base, too.
Is that? Yeah, 40.
Yeah, so he's big. Well, I mean, he's not big, but I mean...
Well, big enough.
Yeah.
So it's got a 1 attack.
Mm-hmm.
You can't escape the truth. Casting 5, resist defense, melee or close to.
Mm-hmm.
Target model gains slow, and this attack gains positive flip to disengaging strikes, and it does no damage. It just the model gains slow.
Okay.
However, it's got the painful revelations. After succeeding against a target that was slow when the attack was declared, the target suffers 2 damage. So it's a built-in trigger will deal damage to things that are slow. So first it slows you, then it hurts you.
Yeah. I mean,
Again,
it's still good. Yeah, no.
Again, it's one of those, it's a totem attack that's not great, but if you do get it off, it's useful. But the real thing is it's... Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
The real thing is it's 0.
The 0 is why you get it, yeah.
Well, no, you get it for the Arcane Reservoir, I'd say.
Okay, yeah.
But the 0 is its next best ability. So you need a 5 to cast Thorough Investigation, range 8. Target friendly master may activate immediately after this as a chain activation. The target gains evidence +1. So as a 0, he says, Nellie, gain evidence 1, and she may chain activate.
Which that's the really good thing, is like it doesn't have to happen. So if you're...
Right, but if you're ready for Nellie to activate, you're like, alright, printing press, you gain evidence, immediately activate.
Well, it's very similar to I mean, some of our games when you played Colette, the dubs, like...
Right, sometimes you don't want to, but sometimes you do.
Yeah, you don't need to get the... Like, you don't need to sacrifice, for the dubs, you don't have to sacrifice and do the positive flip and immediately activate.
Yeah, they can sacrifice themselves to give you a positive twist to defense, casting, or damage.
Yes.
And you may then chain activate immediately. So, but you don't have to. Like, a lot of times I'll use it on Colette to give her positive twist to casting, and then I'll pass because I don't need Colette to activate yet. But sometimes you want to throw it on Howard Langston, give him positive damage, and have him immediately charge something.
Yeah.
So it's like that. If you're ready, the printing press can help her. If you're not, it's an activation, free activation.
And evidence, free evidence for her.
Yeah, exactly.
As we go into her upgrades, it becomes a lot more important.
Yeah. So and that's where we get to the journalist upgrades. So probably the most.
I'm thinking that's probably the one that everyone's going to take.
Guild funds is pretty straightforward. There's almost no reason not to.
She has no limited.
Nope.
No, okay.
So guild funds, that gives her extra use of her evidence. So at the end of the turn, before resolving evidence, this model may choose one of the following depending on its value of evidence. If you have evidence +2 or more, you can choose to heal 2 damage on target model with an 8. So
no
just
casting or anything, just straight up 2.
Any of these, yes, they all automatically happen.
Yeah.
If you have evidence 3 or more, you can choose to give a model with an 8 hard to kill. So that model has hard to kill until it's the end of its next activation.
Yes.
So you could give something hard to kill run it into your face, whatever. Yeah. Or something that's in a bad position, you're like, oh shit, that's going to get pounded. Yeah. I'll give it hard to kill. Yeah. And
like,
of course...
Oh my god, a Peacekeeper with hard to kill.
Yeah, that could make the difference between whether it goes down that turn.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Hard to kill Peacekeeper. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. And if you manage to end the game with evidence +4, you gain 2 soul stones. You can choose to gain 2 soul stones. And the great thing is, so this will happen. It doesn't change your evidence value, and then the evidence value runs out and you get your scheme marker.
Yeah.
So if you manage to go a turn where you racked up a bunch of evidence, but you had nothing to spend it on, then boom, you've got that. It also gives you a defense willpower trigger. So after failing, this model gains evidence +1. So if Nellie fails against any defense or willpower, now she has the tome built into her defense, but not willpower.
Willpower, yeah.
And then she just gets evidence for getting attacked, and after she fails. So, oh shit, you lured me, I get evidence. Oh,
yeah, and also, I mean, like...
You hurt me, I get
evidence. I'm trying to think of, like, what other... I'm not sure about the guild if there's anything, like... I'm going to do... Like, 10 Thunders, we have a lot of pushes, where it's like... Or Mr. Graves, like, I'm going to do a push. Alright, I'm going to choose not to resist, and you push the model. But I wonder if there's a lot of stuff in guild that can do that. Ostringers, I think Ostringers can do it.
No, that's a tactical that isn't resisted.
Oh, it isn't resisted? Okay.
Because it's push a friendly model.
Oh, you're right,
and have them take and interact. Yeah. So because it's meant to target friendlies. The only thing off the top of my head is the box, but even that's a willpower, so you'd have to cheat in a... you'd have to resist, and you'd have to cheat in a tome, and then she'd get boxed. Like, we can look through more thoroughly, and any guild players out there, please go ahead and post
and tell us
what combos.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't
Guild's
see it being super useful.
Yeah, guilds don't have... I'm thinking from if I was a 10 Thunders player and like, oh man, give me focus or something like that. It's like, alright, I got all these.
Do the tag team with her and Senseiyu.
Yeah.
Senseiyu can just, get into position, have some evidence.
Yeah. Oh my god, that'd be so good. Ideas for doubles.
Yep. And the last
thing,
one,
which is a journalist spin. When a model within 8 is killed by a condition, this model may choose to count as having killed it for the strategy and scheme purpose. So very similar to Arcanist's
the Firestarter.
The Firestarter. Pretty much, if you kill anything with a condition, I did it. I killed it.
Well, him, it's specifically burning.
Yeah.
And then Nellie,
it's just anything.
It's
so
any
poison,
condition that kills. Which actually it matters for her. What's
her
it called?
burning
Humiliation. Well, humiliation.
You're right. You're correct.
It's a condition that deals 2 damage, but it's the condition, not her.
Man, good.
So this one means that
if
she kills with humiliation, she gets the point.
Okay, and
so they can't I'm going to activate this model and kill it before you can kill it because you have that condition. Well, if Nellie's within 8-inch aura, no, I still count as killing it. It's mine.
Oh yeah, because
Guild did it.
That's one of the detriments of very condition-oriented.
Right, they can't pull off certain.
Yeah, because
the ones where you need to kill a model.
Like McMorning. Okay, I put 6 poison on you. All right, you lose that 1 point. Well, I don't get the point for it. It's because the condition you aren't. I'm trying to remember what the term was. A condition is neutral when it comes to...
Nobody counts as having killed a model that's killed by a condition.
But for her, she's like, did it.
Right. So as long as she takes guild funds, which it's one of those that I agree it's probably going to be taken most of the time unless you're really starved on slots.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what moments would you not take it? I mean... Yeah. And the nice thing about all of her upgrades, and even her journalist upgrade, all of it is 1 soulstone, so really dirt cheap. For upgrades.
So I think since we're on sort of making evidence more valuable, I think Misleading Headlines is another that she will usually take. Yeah. There might be crew builds where this isn't as useful, but anytime you're going with a even remotely more elite crew, this is a must. Yes,
Casey was talking to me about this, and it was...
And really, think about, combined with, she also gets insight.
Yeah.
It takes her 0, so she can't use the lead.
Well, I mean,
still.
Yeah.
So
what do you want to... Yeah. So, Misleading Headlines. So how it works is, when this crew has the opportunity to activate a model, this model may discard a card or lower its evidence condition value by 1 to pass rather than activate a model. This crew may still activate a model later in the turn as normal. That is phenomenal. Because Casey, we're both pretty experienced players. What usually wins games in Malifaux is activation control.
It is a big part of it.
It is a big part. I mean, you can still have activation advantage.
And that's the big one where her ability to cheat damage is this upgrade is so amazing that it kind of undermines that. Because, like, what do you want to do with these low cards? Do you hang on to them to cheat damage, or do you discard them to pass an activation? And it depends what your enemy's threatening you with.
Yeah.
You know, if there's nothing that you're going to cheat the damage for anyway. But, yeah, it's very interesting to manage those resources.
I think she might be the second, at least what I've seen so far. I think she's the second, if she has this upgrade, second best at activation control, probably next to Hamlin. I mean, because, like, well, I mean, if you have cards in hand.
Well, the other thing is...
Or evidence.
So this is great if you plan on building an elite crew.
Yes.
Where you're taking, you know, like,
executioners.
I don't know. Right. You're taking a Death Marshal, 2 executioners, and a... I can't remember what they're called. Peacekeepers. And you're just doing something kind of crazy for lots of killing stuff. And, like, this would help you not get completely out-activated. However... It would also help you if you were like, you know what, I'm building a crew that is going to win activation. I'm taking my journalists are relatively cheap. I'm taking guild hounds.
Yeah.
I'm taking 1 or 2 big things to support those. And I'm still taking misleading headlines so that even after I've run my hounds out everywhere, I can still use misinformation to pass the activation. Like, you could completely own it against almost anybody but Hamlin if you built that way.
Yeah.
So she's really flexible on how she uses it.
Even in theory, if you're going with the build you were discussing with like Hound, you would probably. I mean, I don't think Hamlin would be. I mean, if he does everything he's supposed to with his like activations, I think. I mean, you'd be pretty close. I mean,
right. Well, he might be forced to trigger. So normally Hamlin doesn't have to rely on triggering the rat engine to own that activation. Against Nelly, if she built for activation control, he might be forced to go a full rat engine.
Yeah.
A full 8 activations instead of just his rats running around.
Yeah.
And but in the end, he's still gonna get the drop on you if he really has to.
Yeah.
But Nelly,
But short of that, I think you're gonna be doing pretty well. Then she has a 0, a dual 0, which is Insight, which is a willpower 6. It's resisted by willpower. Its range is 12. Target gains the following condition until the start of its next activation. Mood swing. When this model controller has the opportunity to activate a model, the opponent may choose for this model to activate instead if it's available to activate.
Yeah. So she pops mood. She triggers. She insights the model.
Yes.
It gains mood swings, and now she can say you're activating that model. As long as it still has mood swings.
Very, very similar to Candy.
That's exactly. Yeah. So Pandora has this exact ability, Insight, that gives out mood swings. And then one of Candy's, I think it's her whale or whatever, gives out mood swings after damaging.
That's activation.
And so...
Oh my god, so it's willpower 6. So it's pretty...
Yeah, it's 6 versus their willpower. And that's the weird thing. It's not
casting. And
it's
a nice range too, yeah.
So like, anything that affects casting doesn't affect
So you can do this against a rider if you wanted to.
Correct. It is... Or actually, I'm trying to remember.
Oh no, I think it's a willpower duel. So it's willpower duel.
It's, in their case, it's if you're attacking their willpower, you get a negative.
Yes.
But, anything that would give, say, negative flips to casting won't. So yeah, you can... Hey, that model that I'm pretty sure you're going to try to save it till later to get... I'm going to incite it. I succeeded.
Yeah.
You know, you're next. Activate that right now. You know, like Sensei U. I'm going to hit Sensei U and I want to see exactly what you're pushing. Do it.
Oh, man.
Like, force you to activate. Same thing if, like, they've reactivated a model, so they're going to get 2, and you're like, no. Use one of those right now so I can see where it's positioned for the second.
Or like, McCabe.
Yeah, McCabe, do your thing. Show me where the upgrades are. Show me who's going to be reactivated.
Yeah.
Like, of course, they have to fail. They can still cheat to pass. But if you succeed, it gives you some options. So that's her one to really fuck with activation order.
Oh, God. I love misleading headlines. And then
it's another one of those that I think Guild Funds and Misleading headlines are pretty much those auto includes you talk about for a master.
Yeah.
Everything else is good, but not necessarily all the time.
Yeah. So we'll go into let's talk about embedded.
Yeah,
so
that's a fun one.
This model gains the following ability. This crew may hire up to 4 models with the mercenary characteristics that are not this crew's declared faction instead of the usual 2. Mercenaries that are not from the Resurrectionist or Neverborn factions are hired at their regular cost rather than costing 1 extra soul. So pretty much the gist of it is you can hire mercs that aren't Neverborn or Resurrectionists into your faction at base cost.
Yes, and you still get 4 mercs even if they're from those.
Yes.
So as long as you're buying 2 mercenaries, taking this upgrade will save you a soul stone.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's even people talking about taking 3 or 4 Ronin just to have like your entire thing, because they have disguised, the reporters have disguised, like Nellie and her totem are going to be 2 of the things that don't have it.
Yeah.
That's already a base of like 6 models with disguise.
They're talking about that, like
there's some interesting things that pop up when you look at that.
But also gives you some new.
Yes, triggers on your hot off the presses. That's her placement.
Yeah.
Where she gets to place a model.
After succeeding, move this model up to 3. So you can push her up to 3 inches.
Right. She can push herself 3.
And then with that's with the masks, and with an additional ram, slow news day. This target does not gain the burning from this action. So because her placement would give them all burning 3. This one is with an additional ram.
So if you do it to a friendly, you'd want to make sure to cheat in a ram.
Yes.
And they don't gain burning. So that's a good way to throw that executioner.
Yes.
If you have embedded.
So what do you think of embedded? I'm thinking embedded isn't always a.
Yeah, I mean, embedded is you have the mercenaries. You think you look at your mercenary pool and you decide if you want extras. It's very interesting just to see like. Because it's interesting. Guild have some really good shooty stuff, but Ninos that are only real sniper with the focus double your range ability.
Oh, I mean, well, that and the Ostringers and the Guild.
Okay, I forgot about Ostringers, but Pathfinders and Riflemen, they're good shooting, but they don't have that true...
They don't have that, I can reach you across the table and hit you. Yeah. I agree on that, yeah.
So, being able to take things like Trappers would be an interesting, especially since you're not paying an extra cost.
No.
Which means you could take 2 Trappers, Nino...
Performers.
Yes, Performers. That's another one.
Performers don't mind, like their base cost is you're Arcanist, so 5, right?
So other people pay 6. Their base 5.
If you take 2 Performers with this crew,
exactly. Oh look, it's Headhunter, and I want to play Nelly because the other stuff is really scheme heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take
some of the cheapest don't mind me models.
Right. I'm gonna grab 2 Performers, and maybe since you have 4 Merc slots, you decide that 2 Ronin are pretty good too.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh man, and they have that nice little disguise bubble too. You can put this. That's nice. I think that so pretty much embedded is if you are planning to take mercs, any mercenary crew, if you're gonna take at least 2 mercs,
even 1. If you have an upgrade slot and you take a single merc,
it does pay for itself.
There's the 1 soul stone, and so then you get this trigger on your thing. Now, imagine using hot off the presses to throw a Performer up to a scheme marker that's next to where a head is, have her walk over to the head, pick it up, and great.
Yeah, I think I see Performers, her and Performers and Nelly, working pretty well with the other.
I even see what's his name, Bishop as a beater. Like being able to take some of those.
And that's I know we're going off the topic, but like Bishop, he has that Lee in our shifting loyalties. He has a really short melee range. Okay, I'm gonna bring stuff into contact with you. All right, Bishop, beat the crap out of him.
Exactly. Throw him to them, or either take the enemy to Bishop or Bishop to the enemy because she can move people around.
Yeah.
Right, and so then there's Delegation is her other personal upgrade. So this gives her a new action called Assignments People. So it's a tactical action. Casting 6, target number 12. Target non-leader gains fast. So she can just hand out fast to people. On a 6.
No! That's supposed to be Ted Thunder's job! Ted Thunders are the ones who have to give fast everyone, damn it.
Well, and she has both triggers built in. One of them is after succeeding, lower your evidence to place a ski marker in base contact with the target.
Is that at the end or is that right away?
No, after succeeding.
After succeeding,
so you say, you gain fast, boom, drop a ski marker next to you. Of course, Nellie has to have a evidence, but
she's going to most likely is going to have one.
After succeeding, lower this model's evidence condition by 2 to heal 2 on the target. So you can say, you're fast, lower my evidence, heal 2. So this gives her an even more support of her crew. That actually, it's one of those moments that if you're not taking embedded, delegation plus an elite crew with misleading headlines, this would help her give fast to said elite crew.
You're still, it's still tough because like what I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I want to take guild funds and misleading headlines and embed it and then delegation so I can bring Bishop in and then give him fast and like.
Well, at that point you might have to settle for paying the merc tax on somebody like Bishop. But yeah, I mean, even we're going to get to it in here. Executioners have their new 0 upgrade that makes them faster.
Yeah.
I mean, Nellie could give them fast. Their upgrade lets them charge as a 1 action. They could get 4 attacks in a turn.
And ignoring defensive triggers. What?
Yeah, I mean, if Colette was scared before Colette's scared of executioners to begin with, this is just terrifying.
And then being able to push it 4 inches because of the...
A push, a place, she has all these great effects.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And then...
now, of course, if she is using delegation, that's a 1 action, so she's not using her other abilities that are pretty good, but it's all just part of the bigger thing she can do. So that's why delegation I don't see as a must-have. Like, it's not going to be in every single crew build, but
I agree.
It is very valuable.
Yes. And then why don't we talk about the journalist upgrade?
Right. So we've got the journalist upgrade. So right now I think there's only
2 journalists.
Well, okay. So Nellie is a journalist that can take it. Fiona Gage.
And then Allison Day.
Allison Day. So we have 2 other journalist henchmen who can take this.
That's really weird.
Yeah. Well, Dade's not out yet, and Fiona Gage is in the box.
Was in the book. Okay.
So, transparency. So, friendly journalists with an 8-inch aura gain the following trigger to their attack actions. So, this is when they attack something. Tome. Transparency. After succeeding, place a ski marker in base contact with the target. So, Fiona Gage has a tome built into her attack, but no triggers.
Okay.
And now Allison Day does not have that, and I believe the journalists don't have it built in. You're right. So whoever's holding it, all journalists with an 8 will have this ability. So Fiona, basically, imagine being able to charge somebody like Fiona in. She has transparency, so she hits. She gets 2 attacks. They both hit. They both drop ski markers, and then I declare plant explosives against.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's potentially strong.
Yeah.
Of course,
I don't think
upgrade slot and a point.
I honestly don't think this would be a Nelly upgrade.
Oh yes, it's one of those that she is so starved for upgrade slots.
Yeah.
That one of those henchmen is going to have to carry it.
Yeah. So now, why don't we go over just go over Nelly just in general. I'm seeing her as being impressions of Nelly. She is really interesting mechanic wise, like with the evidence. Yeah. I see her sitting kind of midfield, not back like where like a summoner was.
So she's got an 8-inch bubble to be able to help her crew.
Yeah.
And then a 10-inch bubble for her things that affect enemies.
And up to I think 12 for some of her other stuff. One of her upgrades gave her.
Maybe there was a. Yeah.
But so she's a midfield master. She is I think she's very field manipulative.
Oh, insight is the one.
She's going to. I'm going to manipulate my crew to put into positions to accomplish schemes or placing scheme markers. I'm going to be using my evidence to try to get those scheme markers where they need to go. And I'm also going to be playing interference with your crew.
Yeah.
She also has the ability, if you take the correct upgrades, to I'm going to get fast to my executioner.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be pushing, oh my god, and she can push models into the Executioner and have the Executioner do melee attacks.
Right. So on her propaganda, she would have to hit them with propaganda,
Yes.
spend one evidence, so she'd lower her evidence by one, and she'd get 2 triggers to push them 5 inches and to let the Executioner attack.
Yeah.
Which means, and you could be in, maybe somebody charges into her face and she's just like, nah, get out of here.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just out there, maybe they're harassing your scheme runners. You're one of your journalists is under attack, so you push them into something else and have that thing attack them.
Oh man, and then like let's say you're fighting something, melee engagement 1. Alright, I'm going to push it into another model that has engagement 2, and then it's going to hit you with oh man.
So she has that, like Black Blood. If a model has Black Blood, she pushes you to position you where you're just outside and lets a model attack you. Especially if you just positioned your model in base contact with something and you're like, no, I don't want you there. Bang, take a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that first damage will trigger it, but then you'll push them and finish them off.
And then scathing review, because that was the one weakness I initially thought was, okay, then I'm just not gonna play your game. I'm gonna play very killy schemes, and I'm not going to do any interactive actions. Because I mean, if you look at the scheme pool for this year, or the strategy schemes, there's like a lot of the really killy ones aren't some of the primary schemes.
Right, I think there's one that's a suit.
Yeah.
That's
Hunting Party.
Hunting Party.
But all the other ones are, so there's no, okay, I'm going to be getting Assassinate every single game.
Right.
Or more
Assassinate
likely.
used to have both Assassinate and some of the others.
So and then like, okay, like I'm going to be doing, and she's going to make you.
Now it's actually really interesting when you look, she's not very good at, on her alone, doing anything to deny the enemy as far as schemes, because like marker placement specifically.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't remove any, like when we eventually get there, Parker Barrows is amazing at removing enemy schemes. She just says, oh, you're placing schemes, I get better, I get my resource. And she can, scathing review, it's like, give me my resource.
I'm thinking Executioners are going to love having her. Because,
with how slow they are and the new upgrade to buff them,
she
does everything.
Also, them I'm going to eat your ski marker. Nom, 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 nom.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you take damage until you drop a ski marker. Oh, ski marker, Executioner, do your thing. Yeah.
Eat that ski marker, get another attack, or, oh man.
Exactly.
But so, my overall opinion of Nelly, she's really good at controlling the field, both the opponent's models and enemy models. She's not going to be killing things.
Yeah, she does that, control bubble. That's the thing. Even if you have, Lucius is pretty good at doing, scheme marker placement. Hell, he's at least as good at her at placing them. But she has that more overall board control. Yes. He only controls his own models. Nelly will control the enemy models using your stuff to push them.
You need to get, you have convict labor? Well, push my models in. And the best thing about her, though, is depending on her upgrades, she can get to the point where I'm going to get Nelly activated when I really need her. Short of, you said, handling crews.
You might have to spend cards to get there, but, you can wait to activate Nelly, or you might even activate her just to build up enough evidence to do other key models wait. But okay, you just moved the only model that could get to that second stash marker. I'm going to activate Nelly. I'm going to kill or push that guy off the stash marker, get enough evidence that I can then delay a few more turns, and then I'm going to charge into the others, get my own thing to that stash marker now that...
She brings something that Guild was lacking. Which, Guild is the master of killing. I mean,
but it's not that they... Yes, so this whole book seems to be giving people what they didn't have.
Yes.
And I'd say they didn't have a board control that could move people like that. Because they can scheme... Like, McCabe, I'm going to take 4 Hounds and Luna, and they're all scheme runners. Fuck.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
How little you're paying for those 5 scheme runners that unless they manage to take out Luna, and she's not... For her points, she's tough enough. 6 wound hound, basically.
Yeah.
And so the only thing they couldn't do was manipulate enemy movement. Because even McCabe, he can push his own guys around really hard.
Yeah.
He can take lots of cheap scheme runners and be amazing with them. Lucius can drop scheme markers I think it's 12 to 18 inches away from him with his sniper.
Yeah.
But in the end, none of them could really make the enemy move or do things to manipulate their models.
You aren't like
their only option was to delete it. I'm
Yeah.
going to damage it until it's dead. Like, think about how Perdita. How does Perdita get somebody off a stash marker? She's just gonna
she
shoot
kills
it.
Yeah,
She's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
She's gonna reposition to a family member near it and get her 3 attacks. Meanwhile, Nelly is like, no, I'm gonna push you off the scheme marker, let somebody else attack you, or no, push you off the scheme marker, give you slow, and then I'm just gonna let my other stuff do its thing.
Yeah. But
so it's that board
Nelly
presence.
does bring something really new to the guild, which
Yeah,
guild players should be very happy with Nelly. In terms of a skill, as a
she does seem a very high skill cap.
very high, high skill. You're gonna need quite a few games. I think she's about the same skill cap as kind of like a Colette.
Yeah, well, I could see new players easily getting in and
Getting her killed.
overusing her cheating damage possibly. Like that moment where it's like you could reduce the damage by 2 by cheating in a low card, but maybe that low card should be spent somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like discarding it for activation control, because maybe, and it just depends.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And
using her evidence.
also
at the wrong time.
she has a cache of 4, and I'm thinking I'm thinking of her. You might just run with just the bare minimum 4 because.
Well, if you think you can pull off her extra soul stones from the guild funds, then absolutely. Although, yeah, it depends.
Because short of
I'd probably want 1 or 2. But if she really had to, if you're like, I really just need to squeeze in this upgrade or this model upgraded to something better, she could get away with it. Although I still think 4's low.
Really? Oh.
Well, I'm trying to think
because there's not much where she would use the soul stones for.
Well, there's also minions who would want to use them for various things.
Yeah. Or so her
and we'd have to see what minions or not minions, henchmen.
Henchmen. Yes.
Henchmen spinning them. Now the big thing is she does not have too much use for spending on suits herself. Although her upgrades give her some that she does.
Yeah.
Like hot off the presses. Neither of those are built in for the new triggers.
Yeah.
Although that's basically it.
Yeah, right?
So she doesn't really need suits too much, so she personally, aside from damage prevention, she doesn't have a huge use.
But I'm saying you could take her and then take an enforcer that needs those suits. An enforcer that, or not enforcer, a henchman that needs those suits. Why
can't I remember? Judge
Judge
loves being able to spin soul stones on
or
his bullets and blades.
Or you bring the